Some scientists are worried about the viruses that are called zombie viruses that threaten us. Their particularities? They have been buried in the ice for thousands of years and today, they are resurfacing. Could they be the cause of new epidemics? Do we know how to fight them? Let's go to Siberia to answer these questions and more. Have fun! The medical staff at the Selkard Hospital, a small town in Siberia, is not ready to forget the month of July 2016. In a few days, an unusual number of patients show up at the emergency room. They have fever, stomach pain, serious intestinal problems. At first, we think of an epidemic of gastroenteritis, but very quickly, this hypothesis is dismissed. A large number of patients are indeed seized with violent coughing fits. However, as you know, the gastrovirus does not attack the lungs. We also think of the flu. But there again, it is unlikely. Several patients are covered in itchy, purulent spots. The question is then on everyone's lips, are we dealing with a new kind of epidemic? To be sure, tests are carried out on the patient's blood, secretions, and stools, and after a few days, the results are in. They are victims of anthrax, a potentially fatal disease caused by a bacteria called anthrax bacillus. The doctors can't believe it. In fact, this bacteria has theoretically disappeared from this region of the world for more than 75 years. A health investigation is then immediately launched to trace the epidemic, as will be done for years later for COVID-19. And it doesn't take long to discover its origin. The reservoir of the bacillus is on a reindeer carcass. But not a dead reindeer, a few days before the start of the epidemic. A specimen that disappeared much longer ago is preserved in the frozen ground, what is called permafrost. Permafrost, an English expression of contraction of permanent frost, permanent gel. If the animal is indeed dead, the bacteria it was carrying survived thanks to the cold that reigns in the subsoil. It survived, but without causing any problems, without being able to develop since it was frozen. But then, you will ask me, how did it resurface? Who took it out of the freezer? The culprit was the high temperatures of the summer of 2016, which scientists attribute to global warming. They melted the permafrost, releasing the carcass that was there and the bacteria it harbored. From there, everything happened very quickly. The bacillus spread in its environment, contaminating the reindeer herds. More than 2,300 animals have died from the infection. In humans, it has caused one death. A 12-year-old child. The sick probably contracted the disease either through contact with the animals or by eating their meat. For the time being, this case remains a unique one. But scientists are worried. Microbes trapped in the cold in the permafrost could, with the thawing caused by the increase in temperatures, resurface. And who knows, cause diseases, epidemics more serious than anthrax. Permafrost is frozen ground formed, as has been said, by the accumulation over thousands of years of organic matter, dead plants in particular. It also contains air, microbes, and ice. The temperature there fluctuates between -1 and 0 degrees throughout the year. However, it can drop to -15 degrees in the coldest areas. At such temperatures, the activity of microorganisms is stopped. This is the very principle of preserving food in a freezer. Cold blocks microbial activity. Permafrost represents 1/4 of the land area in the northern hemisphere. It is in this country that the thickest layers are found. In Siberia, its thickness is on average 25 meters, but it can reach 1,500 meters in some regions. Scientists estimate that at its deepest level, the Earth could have been frozen for more than 1 million years. Usually, permafrost is covered with a surface layer a few dozen centimeters thick, which alternates between freezing and thawing. This is called the active layer. Below, theoretically, the soil does not thaw, which allows the preservation of plant remains, human corpses and carcasses of animals that disappeared thousands or even millions of years ago. The most emblematic are the mammoths, of course. The oldest specimen extracted from the permafrost was named Krestovka and is estimated to be 1,650,000 years old. But the best preserved animal ever discovered in the permafrost is not a mammoth, it is a horse. Lena's horse, a 42,000-year-old, remains unearthed in the Batagai Fault, also in Siberia. When they found it, scientists couldn't believe their eyes. Its muscles, fat, and tendons had retained their reddish color. More surprisingly, they were able to extract samples of liquid blood from its blood vessels. The oldest blood in the world. The downside is that permafrost also preserves quantities of microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses, which scientists have nicknamed zombie viruses. The cold doesn't kill them, it preserves them. And with the melting of the ice accelerating, as we have seen, certain pathogens are resurfacing. In 2023, researchers from the University of Aix-Marseille achieved a real feat. They managed to identify 13 zombie viruses taken from the Siberian permafrost. Among them, a virus that is 48,500 years old. A record! 2 others, found in mammoth droppings, were reactivated after spending 27,000 years frozen in ice. So how can such a miracle happen? Well, no, there is no miracle. Viruses and bacteria each have a secret weapon that allows them to resist the cold and come back to life, even after tens of thousands of years spent in the cold. Let's take the case of the anthrax bacillus, which causes the disease anthrax, which we talked about earlier. When conditions are hostile, this bacterium is not able to resist as such. To do this, it forms spores, that is to say small specialized cells, which have the capacity to withstand the cold until conditions become mild again. Each spore then transforms back into bacteria. For viruses, the process is even simpler. They do not need to transform into spores to resist the cold. They reactivate as soon as climatic conditions allow them to. In this case, when the permafrost warms up. In Siberia alone, it is said to lose 30 to 60 centimeters of thickness per year. Because of global warming. These are as many viruses and bacteria, known or unknown to scientists, that are likely to reactivate. It is estimated that approximately, hold on to your hats, 4 sextillion, or 4,000 billion microbial cells, are released each year on a global scale as the ice melts. That's huge! But rest assured, the viruses that have resurfaced so far are giant viruses. They only affect amoebas, that is to say single-celled organisms. They are very different from the viruses that affect mammals. It is therefore unlikely that they represent a danger to humans. The real risk, according to scientists, is that when they come into contact with unknown bacteria and viruses, our modern viruses and bacteria are enriched with new genes that would make them more virulent and more resistant. At the University of Aix-Marseille, we are therefore working hard to try to measure the possible impacts of these microbes buried for millennia, in order to find vaccines or treatments. Is the thawing of the permafrost inevitable? If we continue like this, yes. However, we can slow it down. Sergei Zimov, a Russian scientist, had the idea of reintroducing large herbivores such as horses into the tundra in order to compact the soil. This would have the effect of better insulating them, and therefore slowing down the thawing of the permafrost. Within the parks, where they have been conducting these experiments since the 2000s, results are already visible. The temperature of the permafrost inside the park is now 10 degrees lower than that of the same permafrost located outside the experimental area. Another study conducted as part of the European Permafrost Thaw project seems to demonstrate that once the permafrost has completely thawed, methanotrophic microbes, i.e. methane eaters, could develop and capture large quantities of greenhouse gases. Are we safe? Unfortunately, the answer is no. In the meantime, it is preferable to do everything possible to limit global warming, and thus preserve our environment by reducing our CO2 emissions. And remember, every 1/10 of a degree gained is a victory. Well folks, and with that, we end our video today. Write us your thoughts on this in the comments and let us know about which topics we should make a video about. Otherwise, subscribe to our channel and see you next time here at Wikivedia Plus. Thank you all for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed our content. A big hug, and until then, bye.